Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. I'm Brian. Joining me as usual is Henno.
Hey.
And no Jen this week, even though she was supposed to be here. So we're just going to plug on without her, and maybe she'll jump in at some point. We'll see.
There was this moment where we thought we heard this like, oh, did we connect? No, we didn't.
Yeah.
It was just my dog snoring in the background.
Right?
Jen, is that you?
Yeah. Nope. Just the dog snoring. Probably sounds similar, though. So how you doing, Henno?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How about you?
No, not too bad.
Been getting stuff done and staying on top of things and feeling pretty good. But the only thing that's hanging over me right now is the appraisal back from this he did it, it'll be 2 weeks Monday.
Oh, wow. Still haven't heard back,
and it was supposed to a week to 10 days, Yeah. And so I really, because all the banks are closed on Monday. So yeah, I was really hoping it would get resolved before Memorial Weekend.
Yeah.
But oh well. But yeah, still got my wedding outfit.
Nice.
Getting RSVPs nailed down, all that stuff, and getting a little more excited to actually be, to go and to be on vacation. So,
yeah, because it's inside of 3 weeks now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And what was it? Yesterday was like, okay, and a month from now we'll be getting back,
Yeah.
We're at that level,
Yeah.
And I got a temporary ring because I'm going to have a ring made that has I got my grandmother's gold wedding band, and Sharon doesn't like yellow gold, so I'm going to use it in something.
Sure.
Custom. And in the meantime, I was like, we were going to get something temporary, and we have a local jeweler who makes these rings. They look like They call them what do they call them? They call them Boulder Mountains, but they just looks like a Fred Flintstone ring. It looks like little boulders in a ring, and I like them. I think they're kind of cool and they're very unique. It's his own custom deal, and you can have stones put in it too. But it was reasonably priced, and I was like, if I'm going to wear something, even just temporarily, I'd like it to be something I like. Mm-hmm. Sure. And it's a local business.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And supporting them and stuff. And that's where I got, Sharon's, engagement ring was there too. So.
Oh, cool.
but yeah, things coming together, and you know, going to the gym and just feeling good, you know, which is it's a good place to be.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Awesome.
How's yous?
I'm doing pretty good. Although I had an appointment with someone at my doctor's office, not a doctor's appointment, but like a caseworker or something, and I totally forgot about it. And yeah, normally they call and remind you, you know, like, hey, tomorrow you have this appointment. Well, they didn't this time, and or if they did, I didn't see anything from them. So, and I totally forgot about it, and I was like, whoops. So. Yeah, I got to call Tuesday because I don't know if they're open tomorrow, but I got to call and reschedule that because it's something I wanted to be part of. But I feel like a jerk for, you know, because I don't like to waste people's times, and you know, something like that. I know people book up, and you know,
yep.
I also know it happens, but it's still the idea that it bugs me a little bit that, you know, I didn't remember it and whatever. Yeah. You know, because I've got it written down, I just totally forgot about it. So you know, whatever. So yeah, that happened. And then, Tuesday I went with, my buddy, T to see some, pro wrestling live. We went to see WWE SmackDown cause it was here in town. So that was a lot of fun. We, you know, hung out and got to, you know, enjoy that. So, although I will say as a larger fella, the, seats are a little snug there. They're not putting me and T next to each other, not the most comfortable seating arrangement. But you know, we still had a lot of fun, and you know, and it was good fun. It was cool. We stayed till they have another show that's afterwards, and we stayed through that and everything. And the big upside to that was, by the time we went to leave, there was nobody pretty much in the parking garage. Yeah. So we walked right out to the car and just drove out. There was no wait to get out of the place at all. So, you know, and it wasn't like we, you know, did anything extraordinary. We just stayed through the whole show. And that's how much the place cleared out, though, after the first part of it. You know, so that was kind of cool. And I was like, you know, that's kind of a smart move if people do that a little bit, because it will make getting out of the shows so much easier. Maybe not if you leave initially, because you're still going to be fighting, like, probably almost 2/3 of the crowd left. So you'd be fighting that. But like for us, like I said, we didn't have any, I mean, when we left, it was almost like we were walking over to the garage by ourselves. You know, normally you leave any sort of a show, there's like a crowd walking with you. There was like one other guy walking with us. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, I had a weird thing happen to me.
Okay.
Speaking of doctors. And our typical man thing of not getting help, you know, until it's like horribly uncomfortable and painful, right?
Sure.
So there's a couple things that I get. One of them, sinus infections all the time, goes with allergies.
Yep.
The other one is I get like UTIs, you know, just random weird urinary tract infections, bladder, whatever.
Sure.
It just like every other year I get one.
Right.
And so I had the complete
wash once in a while there, Henno.
Yeah, exactly. That would help.
That's all the doctor ever tells you. You go in and they're like, seriously, bathe once in a while. Like,
bathe.
This isn't this difficult. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
And, you know, the old me is like, oh, maybe it'll go away. And of course it never does. Right?
I'll just drink some like, cranberry juice. Yeah.
Because like there was sinus infections, you never know. And
some of those do go away.
Sometimes they do, yeah.
Yeah, I've had some that are minor that'll go away, and then there's other ones that after, you know, about a week, you're like, I really should have went to the doctor a while ago, because
exactly,
you know,
yeah. So this time I'm like, boom, make the appointment right away. Took the morning off of work, get into the doctor's office, you know, pee in a cup. Yeah, you have like there's no white blood cells. There's no nothing. You know, we don't. And I'm like, she's like, how does it feel today? I'm like, it's actually a little better. She's like, well, maybe actually try some cranberry juice. And she's like, I'll give you a prescription. If it doesn't get better, go fulfill it.
Yeah.
But she's like, I don't see any sign. And I'm like, and I like literally had that conversation we're having right now. I'm like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
You know, usually I'll just put it off and hope it goes away.
Yeah.
This time it just went away.
Right.
I'm
like, oh no, the worst thing that could have happened kind of did, which is that your waiting is now justified. It's like, no, you should go have that taken, checked out. Yeah.
Or maybe some good news is that my immune system is actually starting to work.
Also that, yeah.
How nice would that be for a change?
Yeah.
You know, that actually taking care of myself. Because she was great. She's like, do you take a probiotic? I'm like, yes, I do. She's like, good, keep doing that. You know, and blah, blah, blah this and blah, blah, blah that. And I'm like, okay, you know, and
yeah.
It's like, all right, maybe I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I got to where, at one point I've had kind of off and on issues with my kidneys for a long time, like nothing major, but just every once in a while, you know, I'd have a slight issue or something. And, and when I went to the doctor, most of the time they were like, yeah, cranberry juice, drink more water, cranberry juice, stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I hate cranberry juice, like a lot. I hate it. But I found that they actually, if you go into like the supplements and stuff, they have cranberry pills. That are
do they?
basically a concentrated version. So those I can deal with, So, I used to buy those, quite a bit, it wasn't very often, just every once in a while I would get pains in my lower back. I had gone for various tests and they're like, well, everything looks, or it's like, well, it's slightly elevated, but it's probably just that you need to, drink more water, because I didn't drink enough water in those days. Now I drink water like crazy. So, I don't seem to have those problems so much. But like I said, I was so glad that some companies made those cranberry pills, because otherwise what I was doing when I drink it is, I just shoot it, pour a glass and bang. And I was like, because I really don't like it. But, I'm also not dumb enough, or, it's like, look, I know it works, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna drink it. It's like, so.
Well, that's like most cranberry juice, they put so much sugar in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just tons of sugar and so I'll get, like, I actually bought a, full organic, not sweetened, and it was foul. I just did what you did.
Yeah.
I just hounded it.
Now you know why they put all the sugar.
And I'm just going to nail it. Yeah. Like, there's a reason they put that much sugar in there.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not like the tartness or anything. It's just, I just don't like the taste. So yeah, that's what I did for a while though. I was pretty much doing the same thing you did though, which was I tried to find the one with the lowest amount of sugar and all that stuff. Cause you don't, when you're drinking more of it, I didn't want to just keep, drinking a bunch of just sugar stuff. I actually want more of the cranberry juice,
Yeah.
But ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Not a fan. Well, good though. I'm glad that, you don't have to, you may not have to take the medicines and stuff for it.
It was great to not have to take the antibiotics, and I had it and it was available and it was great. But it was funny because she was literally looking like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. I'm like, there's always something wrong with me. Here I am trying to be all proactive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why the one time when I went in and I was telling them how my kidneys were hurting, they wanted a urine sample and I gave them one and they're like, there's nothing really here. Like, you have a little higher protein than you should, which has been the main issue I've had, is that I have too much protein in my urine. Like, for a long time, I've kind of off and on had it. And they were like, we'll keep an eye on it, but that's not going to cause this. And, it's like, so, and I'm like, well, something's causing this because I'm hurting. Well, just drink more water. And yeah, literally that seemed to be what it was I was drinking so much pop that, I wasn't drinking water like ever. I barely was drinking water each day. Like when I get up, I drink water and that's about it. The rest of the day I'm drinking pop or something along those lines. So it was, just what I was putting into my body. It was forcing my kidneys to filter so much that, it wasn't flushing them out the way you should, So, lesson for everyone out there: if you drink a lot of other things, make sure you get your water in. So,
and don't you just love us talking about
Yeah. Well, I mean,
fire shoots out of my thing.
Yeah.
So you're getting a burning sensation when you urinate.
Yeah. Oh.
No, man, fire shoots out.
Yeah. Freaking.
That was the greatest Eddie Murphy bits ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a whole different thing. That was when I had kidney stones that I was shooting fire pretty much. But
boy.
Let's not go into
we
that.
don't need to go there.
No. I can't tell you what episodes of Salty Language it's on, but I didn't talk about it on there enough. So, well, actually, I probably can, but I'd rather not tell you the title of that episode.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I actually think I know exactly which episode it is. Oh, man. So, yeah, that's, I haven't really done a whole lot this week. It was, it's been nice. It's been humid enough and just warm enough that we kick the air on. So I've been sleeping decent because of that, because I can breathe well when the air conditioning is on. And boy, I can almost sit up in bed and tell you if it's been turned off. Or if it's been turned on, and not by the temperature. I can just tell you by the pressure in my head.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Because I got up the other day and I was like, turn the air off, huh? And my mom's like, yeah. I was like, I can tell you almost exactly when you did.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because it's just, I immediately get pressure in my head. It's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. But it hasn't been bad, though. Like, this week's been pretty good. I've had a couple of headaches, but it hasn't been terrible this week, which is nice because we've had a good amount of, like, humidity and rain come through here. Like, the other night it was hot in my room. And I was like, man, I'm going to open the window, because I looked at my, weather app, and it's like 56 degrees outside. I'm like, yeah, that's fine, because I can tolerate, cold pretty well anyway. And that's really not cold to me. So I opened the window, and then I was like, oh my God, it was like 94% humidity. And even though it was a cool breeze with it, you could just feel that humidity. And I'm like, I don't know if having the window open's a good idea or not.
Wow.
Like, I want that cool breeze, but that humidity's killing me. So, yeah, fun. But that was only one night. It wasn't too bad, and, whatever. So, sorry for the noise. I'm adjusting my microphone. Yeah, I was trying to think of I did anything else this week, but, I mean, I made a chicken parmesan meatloaf. Which turned out pretty good. It was kind of weird. It actually reminds you more of lasagna than chicken parm, though. So, but it was good either way.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was good. Oh, wait. Just got a text from Jen that says, yep, just woke up. Sorry, can we still record? So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. And joining us now is Jen.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Jen.
I say bashfully because I'm kind of I'm sorry. I fell asleep and yeah, I completely spaced out. Sorry, guys.
It happens.
I will say it's been quite the weekend. This is, we're recording on Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. For those of you who are listening, after the fact, which will be everybody because we don't post till Monday. But anywho.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Crazy how that works. So that being said, yeah. How are you guys doing? I know you just guys went through the whole updates, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's we're actually at the point where it'd be your turn to tell.
Yeah, so you might as well just kick it off.
Yeah.
Kick it off. All right. Well, so this weekend I ended up taking Friday off. So I had a 4-day weekend, which, yeah, is very awesome. Exactly what I needed. I needed the 4 days just to kind of decompress, get my surroundings in shape. Because, the house and everything has been getting a little behind in all my chores. So,
yeah,
been doing a lot of chores. We are still in the process of renovating the bathroom. So I skim coated the bathroom. We hung the drywall today. I did my flower bed out front and got my new flowers and everything in, which is awesome. We hung the outdoor light fixture that we were meaning to hang for the last month. So very, very productive as far as all that's concerned. And with all the change and working as hard as we've been working, mentally it's been kind of a cleaning of house as well, shall we say. So it's been very therapeutic just to kind of exhaust myself, just throw myself into work around here, let go of the stressors of work and some uncertainties and things that are happening there, as well as just kind of breaking free of the normal, thought processes and stuff that I have running around inside my head. It's kind of hard to focus on that and focus on some manual tasks that you're working on. So sometimes it's nice just to kind of throw yourself into some manual labor and give your brain a break.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but that's what I've been up to and I've been doing. It's been a very interesting last few weeks, and it was kind of nice just to kind of take a break and just kind of clear the air.
Yeah, that's always good. A good step back and reset kind of a, moment or weekend, however you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of reset. And then tomorrow we finish we finished the mudding, I guess, or skim coating of the walls, taping and mudding and all that other stuff of the drywall. And eventually I can get to the fun stuff like painting and putting it back together again.
Right. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's where I am at. So, Ryan, I think you wanted to, you came up with the topic of for today for us to talk about.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you want to take the lead on it.
Yeah, actually, and Heno and I didn't mention this when we were doing the other part of, telling about our week and stuff, which was something happened since we recorded last that really affected Heno and I in ways because of the influence of it in our lives and just the part, we lived through kind of things, which was Chris Cornell, committing suicide. And, for me, it was weird because, when Scott Weiland did it, died of, what was that, a year or two ago? I wrote a blog talking about how it affected me because of, when I was first kind of entering into some of my really darker points of depression, Scott Weiland's music and a lot of the music, like stuff from Soundgarden and stuff was the stuff I was listening to, when I was isolating. It was kind of what helped me get through it because I just would get lost in the music. And, Heno and I have had various conversations about the grunge era. We were just talking just a matter of days before, about the Singles, soundtrack, and Chris Cornell's got a song on that. And, it's someone who's kind of come up in our conversations various times. Not to mention he was playing in Detroit, which is right by here. And I would tell other people, it's like, man, if I would have known that Soundgarden was in Detroit, I would have tried really hard to go see him because, that was, one of my favorite bands. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit before we kind of get into the topic, but that the overall topic is basically suicide and the taboo of it. So.
Yeah, I was messed up that day.
Yeah, me too.
Really bad. And I am not that. I'm just not like that usually. And it kind of took me by surprise. I was a huge Soundgarden fan before they really got popular. And then when they got popular, I was kind of like, well, when they quit, I was like, oh, good. It was time because they were no longer the same band.
Right.
And everyone was like, wait, what? You guys just, it's like, no, we've been a band for 10 years.
Right.
It's like,
Well, that was the thing.
We're ready to go do other things.
Like you had told me, and I didn't know that Soundgarden actually started in like 84. Like I only knew of them in the 90s. I didn't know that they had already been around 5 or 6 years before I heard of them. Because like you said, you knew them before they blew up because, Cornell was part of, what was it, Mother Love Bone he was the singer of, right?
No,
I'm sorry.
He did
Temple of the Dog.
It was the Temple of the Dog
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
Which was a tribute to the, guy from Mother
the
Love
singer
Bone.
Mother
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
Bone. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know why I got that mixed up. I know better. But he did that as well as that. And then of course people know him from Audioslave, which was after Soundgarden. And then he did a bunch of solo stuff, then got back with Soundgarden. And that's kind of where, we are here. I read an article by somebody from Men's Health earlier today who talked about, how when Soundgarden ended, Chris Cornell said he went into a really severe depression around that time. And he got divorced, changed where he lived, everything in his life that he could change basically changed. And then he met his current wife, or you know what I'm saying. And, he said that all of a sudden, life kind of perked up for him because he didn't know he could be in love like that. And he said it was really weird as far as songwriting goes because he always thought he had to be depressed or down to write music. And that makes sense because if you listen to the tone of the Audioslave stuff, it is more positive than a lot of the Soundgarden stuff is. A lot of the Soundgarden stuff is kind of more down but I always just figured that was part of the grunge and, but I didn't realize that was actually an internal fight with himself, So go ahead.
Something's been posted, the other day around the Chris Cornell situation is like when someone commits suicide, it's not necessarily them giving up. Yeah. It's them giving in. It's them giving into the pressures and the demons and stuff. It's not them quitting. They're not quitting on the people they love and they're not quitting on life. They're succumbing. They're finally, they finally get beat by these demons that lurk within them in their heads. And as we've mentioned many times before, probably the worst feeling in the world is when you can't trust your own head.
Yeah.
Well, and the toxicology report hasn't been released yet.
Right.
But there's no doubt he was taking way, way too much Ativan and probably had built up a rather large tolerance.
Right.
The front of house engineer that's worked with him for 15 years said he was not himself from the minute he got on that stage.
Oh, wow.
He said he didn't sound like himself. He was moving around funny.
Yeah.
He was really concerned. There was a bit where he gave the front of house engineer gave a little statement saying that he, got on the radio backstage going, what's going on with Chris?
Yeah.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
And there's lots of video that you can go look at. And, I don't know whether he looks fine or not. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
He's performing, he's doing what he does. But there's a reason why, the bodyguard took him back and his wife said he was slurring his speech. And since then, Rolling Stone has done a series of articles about Ativan and how it affects people. And it does a lot of the things that the benzos do, which it starts to reconfigure your nervous system.
Yep. That's why
it starts.
For anyone who doesn't know, Ativan is for anxiety generally, and it's supposed to be used in short doses. It's not supposed to be a long-term drug. And he had been on it for a while, which, like Henno said, and I love that Rolling Stone's doing that, posting about that stuff. Because that's another side of this. Like I talked about, one of the reasons I wanted us to talk about suicide and the symptom or the signs to look for and stuff was because the only time people really talk about this is when something like this happens. It's when there's a tragedy. That's the only time people talk about suicide, and then you just go back to whatever. Like honestly, have you heard anyone mention Chris Cornell this week?
No.
And that was only a week ago. You know what I'm saying? Same with Robin Williams when that happened. It was boom, that quick. Everybody just goes back to kind of the whatever. So talking about like how a lot of these drugs also increase your chance of suicidal ideations, which is something that if you see on a medicine you or a loved one is taking, do not take that lightly. And I can say from experience, because one of the antidepressants I was on, and I talked about it on the show here, about how I was having ideations. You know, how I was hearing not voices, but something in my head was essentially telling me to do it. You know, kind of like the devil on your shoulder concept is, you know, just like do it. Nobody wants you here anyway. And luckily I was in enough of a place that I was like, this isn't good. And I immediately got off the medicine with doctor's approval and such, you know?
Yeah.
So never take that lightly.
I know a lot of these drugs are prescribed to alcoholics when they're going through treatment. Yeah. And a lot of them, you know, the joke is that it's a drink and a pill, basically. That okay, now I've got this, and it's it can be a very important tool for treatment to get people past dangerous stages. However, you have to get off these things. There was I think it was Outside Magazine. There was a climber who had some, you know, serious injuries in the past and this and that, and also had some mental health issues. And you know, he got hooked on various benzos, and after years of taking these anti-anxiety meds, they went into the physiology of how it had changed his nervous system. Yeah. Completely. Like it literally reroutes the synapses in your brain. Yeah. And they had in this interview is a fantastic article, and it was scary because he talked about even after he tried to stop taking it, things weren't right. Like his brain, things were functioning wrong. And Rolling Stone goes into it in a little bit of detail this last week. If anybody wants to look for the articles, they're really easy to find. But they really go into the fact that, you know, there's a lot of these medications that are out there that, you know, you do build up a tolerance for them. If you have any history of drug abuse, and Cornell did. He admitted to taking, you know, loving opioids and all that stuff. And, you know, he's even called himself the poster boy, you know, and anyone that has that ability to abuse any drug. Sure. And it's, well, and you also, you know,
even if you don't have that tendency though, like you were saying, like, you know, stuff like Ativan or like Xanax, those kind of things that are usually kind of meant for an occasional use, people will use it enough to where it's like, oh, one's not going to be enough, that where now it's like 3 or 4 before you know.
That's what happens.
And it isn't that you see it as an addiction, but you know, you are addicted to them, but you need, because your body's built that tolerance, you just need more to get the same effect. That's why you're not supposed to be on them for a long time, because when you stop using them, usually that tolerance, much like with booze or something, you know, your tolerance usually will drop off a little bit, and then you can, you know, be okay to use them again. And again, I want to completely post a couple, you know, the comment here. We're not doctors. We're not therapists. We're not psychiatrists, nothing like that. So the stuff we're saying is, you know, what we've read, know through that aspect. If you have questions about this, go talk to a doctor. You know, go talk to your psychiatrist or talk to your general practitioner or whatever, you know, or a pharmacist, something along those lines, you know.
And keep in mind, folks, 2 out of 3 of us are on mood alters. So, you know, Brian and I both are take medicine, very openly talk about the fact that we take medicine to help us with our mental issues and stuff. So, you know, by no means don't misconstrue, you know, we don't agree with abusing or overtaking. Yeah. We're 100% behind working with your doctor and working with the professionals to find what works best for you, whether it's medicine or not medicine. That's between you and your doctor. Guys got to talk that out and figure that out.
But
we just found for us it works.
It is also important that, like, again, if you have a loved one that uses Ativan or something like that, to make sure you kind of keep an eye on that stuff too, because again, it is a medicine that can increase suicidal ideations. It is a medicine you can get, like Henno said, you can get addicted to. It is a medicine that you will build a tolerance to and need more and more and more. That can become very problematic. So these are things to keep an eye on if you're with somebody who does use those to help them.
And it's also a good idea to make sure that, your loved ones, or if you're traveling with someone, or, you're intimately involved in one way or another with someone, make sure you let them know if you are on different medicines, what you're on. Have a list, carry it in your wallet. It's just a good idea for health reasons, that if something would happen, the doctors, the paramedics, whatever, people can know exactly what you're on, what the dosage is, so that they can make sure that they are treating you appropriately. It's also very important. I mean, I've talked about it on here before about, how me and my husband have very open conversations about where I'm at with my medicine. And, at one point he was teasing me about something. I said, well, I'm just not going to tell you. And he's like, no. He's like, back it up. He's like, you always need to tell me where your mind's at. What your headspace, where you're at in your headspace, because that way I can work on keeping in front of things versus, letting everything build up inside your head. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm getting broadsided by something, and then I have to work to bring you back to where you need to be. Yeah. He's like, so it's very important that you keep those lines of communication open with your loved ones, and so that you don't go too far down that rabbit hole. Yeah. Make sure you're very honest, very forthright, because, you got to make sure that you don't get yourself in that bad spot.
I have one last thing to say about, like, medicines especially is to never take medicines from a friend or anything like that also. Like, if you're feeling anxious and your friend's like, oh, I take Xanax, here, take a Xanax. It's a really bad idea to do that without talking to a doctor first, especially if you're on other medicines, because you can have interactions. And again, some of these medicines can cause suicidal ideations, and if you don't know these things, you could be taking it and it could lead you down a bad path. Also, it's illegal to, with a lot of these medicines, to give them to someone else.
And they don't always work. They don't work that way.
Yeah, they may not work for you.
Most of them have to build up in your system. Yep. So taking a Xanny, I know it sounds cute and I know it sounds fun, like a great idea. Not necessarily a good choice, folks, because they have to build up in your system over the course of a few days. And if you're combining them with anything such as alcohol, alcohol will counteract any effects that a lot of these medicines have, and will take it out of your system almost immediately, even before you start feeling the effects of the alcohol. Mm-hmm. So it's just, the doctors know what they're talking about. Mm. This is the one place that I would always recommend. Listen to your doctor, and if you have a real situation that you're needing help with, make sure that they're involved in your care. Yeah. They are part of your support system, and if they're not part of your support system, find a doctor that will be part of your support system.
So one thing with Chris Cornell that I think has shocked a lot of people is the fact that, here's a guy that went through the deaths of a lot of people around him. Mm-hmm. And he struggled with his own, depression and substance abuse and various things. And he was the guy that seems, like, okay, this is the guy that's done okay.
Yeah. Cause he quit. Right? I was gonna say he got clean. Yeah.
Right. So you have this impression that, and it's not like, it's not like the guy that kept, he's clean, he's not clean. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not outwardly, so it's more shocking. And the reason I bring that up is the fact that we don't know what's going to happen when we start taking a lot of medicines.
Right. Now,
And
real
even
quick,
supplements and things like that.
but even though we've said this stuff, I want to point out that, again, like Heno said, the toxicology has not come back yet. And even with all the other eyewitness accounts and stuff, this is all still speculation type stuff. So again, don't take it as ironclad, but it's, and again, generally medicine is not the reason you commit suicide. It may push you that way, but it's usually not the exact reason. Usually, and again, we know it. He's openly talked about having depression and fighting against it for years and years now. So, he already had a situation that could be exacerbated by the medicine and other things combined with it or whatever. And again, all speculation,
Yes.
It's truly, he'll be the only one who would ever know,
Yeah. It really comes back to a lot of the, it's an unfortunate where people who have a lot of means, the means to basically to be alone.
Yeah.
There's one thing is isolating. And there's another thing where you just, I know people like it around here where I live, where there's a lot of money. People don't have to work. It's easier for them to get into situations where they're by themselves and
well, sure. Cause all your friends are working all day, or something.
The support system isn't around and blah, 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 and all that. My friend David, who ended up, getting seizures because of all they can tell is there's a supplement that he was taking. These are reminders that we don't know always what is going to happen when we start putting, when we start messing around with chemistry. And that's what this is. It's chemistry and it's predispositions that we don't know about. I know what mine are. Yeah. And that's why I don't drink.
Right. Yeah.
I know where I can go. And the same thing goes with medications. I can go to that same place.
Sure.
And I'm just better off not there. And when this happened, it was literally that morning. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to change my Facebook picture for mental health awareness month."
Yeah,
I was going to use the image, and I wake up and I see this, and it was just like it just crushed me. It just absolutely crushed me.
Yeah, because I sent you a message because it happened overnight when the news broke. It was like 3-ish in the morning or something like that. And I saw someone post something that said, like RIP Cornell. And I'm like, what? And the internet's got this thing where sometimes people are jerks and they do it to mess with people, So I look and I'm like, oh my God, this is true. Like his manager has confirmed that he's dead. And I'm just like, and I was like, man, it's like, I sent you a message because the time difference between us. I'm like, maybe he's still awake, but you weren't. And I was like, man, I kind of feel bad now. Cause it's like, if you happen to wake up and just look at that first by chance, what a great way to wake up. But, it just sucked. It was weird though. Cause I almost felt, even though we're not in any way related to him, I felt almost like I was telling you a member of our family died, a little bit because it kind of grabbed me so hard.
And it was something we've been talking about. And, where it comes back for me is, People die like this every day all across our country, and nobody knows anything about it.
Right, because they're not famous. Yep.
Yeah, and like where I live, the state where I live in, there is if you're not on Medicaid, there's no help for people for mental illnesses that you can get at very reasonable rates. Mm-hmm. There is no emergency care for drug abuse and alcoholism, for any mental health stuff. Sure, you can call the hotlines and stuff, but ultimately it comes down, you either need health insurance or you need some money.
Yeah.
And it is still, this is why this month is very important.
Yes.
For mental health awareness and we talk about it all the time, is there are still stigmas involved with this. There are still, it invades our politics. Mm-hmm. People, until it hits home, most people don't even want to talk about it or even consider it.
Well, and the other
And
thing I kind of lump into this too is like a lot of the people like in this area, especially because the opioid issue in Ohio is horrible. It's like the number 2 or 3 state in the country for opioid deaths. And heroin overdoses have been huge in the last few years around here because there's been a bunch of tainted heroin going around. And it's like, I kind of almost put those in with suicide also because a lot of those drugs are so serious that, and a lot of these people that are dying are because whether it's right now or it's not too far down the road, it's like you're rolling the dice every time you shoot up with this stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's a big issue in these areas, but people are talking about the drugs, but they won't talk about suicide, which is the number 2 cause of death for teenagers in this country. You know?
Yeah.
That's wild.
You know, and I know that there's so much more that's going to go into getting policies where people can get the help that they need. And I mean good quality help. Like what we've got up here, you go to the emergency room, they stick an IV in you because, you know, you're basically, you're low on fluids or whatever it is from drugs or alcohol. Yeah. But eventually it's like, okay, you need to go now. Well, where do I go? There's nowhere to go.
Right.
You know, you go to a state like California, there's a place to go. Mm-hmm. There is some place where you can get some, you know, a mental health evaluation or something like that. We just don't have it here.
Right.
And this is where my personal view on how we treat, how society has decided, how we have as a society, you know, without getting political, I just want to say we as a society, I think, need to do a better job of coming together and making agreement that we want to help people. Yeah. We don't want to just look at point at the problem and say, oh, we've got a huge opioid problem. We want to we need to put some money and some resources into giving people an opportunity for recovery. We can't make people recover, but if there's not even an option, and it's for all different things. You know, there's a lot of people that have chosen to be homeless on the street and not take their medicines and whatever it is. But if there's one single person that suddenly pops up and says, you know what, I'm tired of living like this, or has a moment of clarity or whatever, and just needs that opportunity to get some help, I want to see that help available to them.
Totally agree.
And to have professionals to be able to help people get back up on their feet somehow.
Right.
And this whole thing just reminds me of that's what's really important.
Yeah.
So Neil, I recorded a version of Hunger Strike, which is one of the songs off of Temple of the Dog. And I did this in November because Neil and I have been talking about recording something on our own, and nothing's come of it. And I sent him a reminder at the beginning of the year and nothing came of it. And then last week after, Chris died, I just sent a 2-word text to Neil. I just said Hunger Strike, because Neil has sung the song, you know, himself at shows when he was playing music, and he does the best Ed-Ved ever. And he said he was going to do it this weekend. And I know there's already interest. We've had responses from Twitter. He mentioned it on his show that people want to hear this. Awesome. And so I already went online and I applied for the license. Chris Cornell wrote the song. His family will get whatever, you know, that's when you do a license, you pay a fee for every download or whatever it is. It goes to Chris Cornell's publishing company. And then the rest of the money I want to, you know, to donate it to NAMI. And, awesome. And I'm adding this one to the 2 songs that I'm in the works on already. And it just keeps me motivated to that whatever little bit I want to do what I can do, as little as it is, whatever it is. You know, if people want to hear this song, great. You're going to cough up $1.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and it's going to a good cause.
Right. Absolutely.
Or you're going to cough up $2. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe, you know, call it a donation, and then you get to hear me and Neil sing really poorly. You know? But you know, I want to do something with this, and because I was so bummed out that day. Like, it rained, and I had to take the bus, and I'm on the bus, and I've got Hands All Over, which is one of my favorite Soundgarden songs from Louder Than Love, and it's just on repeat.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm just listening to it, and I was just in a funk all day, and.
So many people were posting on Instagram that they were listening to a variety of stuff by Chris Cornell, whether it was, and I mentioned, I think on Salty Language, about how he's done a bunch of covers that are awesome covers over time.
Phenomenal covers.
He did I forgot the name of the song now, but it's the main song from was it Casino Royale for the James Bond movie, which is an awesome song. He's, and again, Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog, Audio Slave, he's been in so many things, and again, solo stuff. There's some of his solo stuff that's great. It's just, there's a lot of it out there, and I saw so many posts on Instagram, like, I'm just, on Spotify, just listening to everything from Soundgarden today, and it's like, I can't think of a better way to, between like what you were saying, like doing something and trying to throw some help toward mental illness, fighting, mental illness, or helping with mental illness, and also honoring the memory. Cause the beautiful part about when actors or, singers or musicians die is that at least they can live on. Their songs live on. Those songs still mean everything to us that they used to mean. Or, like to me, The Day I Tried to Live was a song that always resonated with me. And I've listened to it, I don't know how many times since he's died, because it's just, it reminded me that I was like, I'm going to go back and listen to stuff I haven't listened to in a while, because it meant so much to me. And it was such a part of my formative years, that going back and doing that it's bittersweet, because on one hand, it's like, man, I forgot how much I love some of this stuff. And on the other hand, it's, you're also sad that there won't be more, but we did get a really impressive catalog from him, so at least there is that. He did, again, I hate to be this way, but for a rock and roll person, I mean, 52 is a long life for a lot of them. So, which is a sad statement.
Other than expressing a little bits here and there, I haven't had a chance to talk about this at all since it happened. I've just been like, I can't wait for the crazy life, and I've been putting my energy into music instead. It's like, okay, let's, I'll get I didn't have the drums done yet on the song. And so I've been working on the drums this week, and I can't wait to get Neil's vocal tracks and hear it. Awesome. I know he's going to put his heart and soul into it. It's weird when, I always find it surprising when something like this affects me, but I pay attention to it. I look at it as like, that's my intuition telling me something.
Right.
That's, that's my higher power sending me a message. Okay. This is important. Why is it important? Okay. What are you going to take from it?
Yeah.
What I think one of the things that everyone always talks about is that, when tragedy strikes is, what good can come of this? And it is a very difficult thing, but it's a choice. Mm-hmm. If we choose to find something good that has come from something bad, it is, to me, it always is a better thing. It's a better way to live. And I want to live my life like that, to find the good messages in even the hardest things, cause not that there's a meaning or a reason why bad things happen. Bad things just happen.
Yeah.
But I think we as human beings, we look for purpose and for, like why, well, you don't necessarily get to know why.
Right. Again, Chris Cornell's the only one who knows. His wife won't know. There was no note. There's nothing. So no one else will. And just like with many people who commit suicide, most of them do not leave a note. Most of them just do it. Yep. So it's unfortunate for the people left behind, because they want that closure. They want to, I think what it comes down to, and as much as Mike made me a jerk for saying, is that people just want to know that they weren't the reason. Or they want to know, a lot of people, and a lot of people will beat themselves up because, well, if I had done this or I had done this, and a lot of times it's like, no, it just happened it may have just happened at another time. You may not have, but meaning at the very end, but again, that's why knowing the signs, knowing the risks and stuff is so important, because then you can keep a watch for it. You can, cause one red flag ticking up on somebody, you just kind of keep an eye on a little bit, but when it gets to 3 and 4 and 5, it's like, okay, maybe I need to be a little more like, get involved in all this, and not so much that you have to wait that long. You can do it at 1. I'm just, using an example. something I wanted to point out before I forget here is I'm going to have in the show notes, I've got a couple of articles about this kind of thing, and the two of them directly pertain to Chris Cornell. One of them is by a woman that is from Psychology Today, and she's written and sold a bunch of books about bipolar. But what I thought was really great about her article is she talks about that there's different types of suicides. That there's some going back to like seppuku, which was, a Japanese ceremonial kind of suicide when you've brought shame to your family, which is, a little different one. But there's there's suicide. I'm kind of read from this, but she said there's suicide in reaction to life events, like something bad happens. Like, I can't remember. I want to say it was like my great grandfather on my mom's side, I believe it is. He lost his job, had no idea how he was going to take care of his family, so he killed himself. That's a direct relation to, now again, there's probably other factors in there as well, but the catalyst at the, that really pushed him was that. And then she points out that there's suicide from an ill brain, which is how people who have it all or seemingly have it all still can commit suicide. Because most people think about how many times in the last week have you heard, or last 2 weeks have you heard someone say something about, it's like, man, he had the world by the grapefruits or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but your brain is still telling you things are awful and you don't belong here and nobody loves you and whatever. And again, and then there's also, as we already discussed, there's potential with the medicine in there, which can alter what's going on. And again, that can make your brain ill though, by rewiring it. But she goes in to talk about, she gives a great example of how she, had sold a bunch of books and was super successful as an author. And she, with her bipolar, when it manifests, she said a lot of times the depression part of it makes her suicidal, even though she's normally in a good place. She's medicated and everything, but just sometimes every once in a while she has these things and they're a strong pull that way. And I understand that. I've been there a few times myself to where that is literally what it is everything in your head is telling you kill yourself. And no matter the first time I had it, I was not medicated. The second time I was also not medicated. The third time was encouraged by the medicine I was on, so, but I have a lot of pulls that way, but they're never enough that I'm going to act on it kind of a thing. But I thought that her article was just really great at showing how you can be really successful and still be, that just shows you how awful depression is. That even with all the things you want in the world, a great wife, beautiful kids, all the money in the world, a super successful band, he's famous, all these things that everyone thinks makes the world great for a person. And yet here we are, whether it was the medicine or just on his own or, just depression and these medicines and different stuff, whatever it ends up being, it still can, this type of thing is still so awful that it can push through the greatest things accomplishments and make you still think that you need to not be here,
It goes back to a lot of the stuff that we basically preach on here, is use all of your tools in your tool chest. Make sure you you practice your breathing, you practice your, if you believe in yoga and, all of that stuff, use all the possible tools that you can to help fight against this stuff, because it is a consistent battle. Yeah. Even when you're at the absolute pinnacle of greatness, when things are going perfect in your life, you're still fighting it.
Yeah.
You're fighting your own thoughts, your own brain. You can't trust your brain, and it's the worst feeling in the world. And when your brain is telling you to do things that are not right, it's even harder to fight against that. But that's why it's so important. I mean, I can't tell you all the different things that I do to make sure I keep myself in a good headspace. I play Reality or Not with my husband off and on. When things start getting out of, I used to play it with Brian as well. When things were getting out of control, if I was in a situation where I thought I might be in my head, like, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm thinking. Is this rational? Is this reality? Is this correct? And I literally have to download my brain and say, is this true?
Or is
is my brain flat out lying to me?
Or is it distorted thinking? Cough, cough. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, and I know I'm in a fairly good place.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot even comprehend when I hear stuff, like Chris Cornell, and when you hear about all these different people going to that point.
Yeah.
I can understand, I can empathize with how tired they must have been.
Yeah.
How exhausted and just mentally drained to get to that point where you just don't, it's like, okay, I give up.
Well, I mentioned to somebody,
I should say.
Someone mentioned to me that they couldn't understand how somebody could feel suicidal. And I said, let me put it to you this way. and I'll use my current age. I'm 38. Mm-hmm. Okay. If the average life expectancy is into your 70s, right? And I'm dealing with depression, especially if I'm struggling with medications or things aren't really working, more so. But if I'm looking at 40 more years of this, that sounds like a terrible existence. So it's not hard for me to look at that and go, I can understand it. It's like somebody who has a condition where they're in a lot of pain and they want someone, they want to kill themselves, like a euthanasia kind of situation. I understand it because I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I do it, but I get it, mainly because I've been there. Like I know what it feels like when you're at that point to where it just all feels like too much. You just feel like that hill is too big. And, like I said, I've been there in various times. The first time I really felt that way had to do with something we haven't talked about on here, but was bullying. I got bullied like crazy for so many years for being fat, for wearing glasses, for getting good grades, for not having enough girlfriends. It was just a constant thing. And this was well before the internet. So I'm so glad that I didn't have to deal with cyberbullying also,
Right?
That's horrible because you can't just shut it. You can't just, oh, thank God I'm home now. I don't get any more bullying until 7:00 tomorrow morning. It's now it can go on Facebook and Twitter and all this other crap the rest of the time. But that's the kind of stuff too that, a lot of these people that are killing themselves, that is something where a lot of them cite as reasons, or they feel that way, or you've seen enough of it on the news where that's been getting more and more press, where people are talking about that kind of thing with these kids. And, so there's that level of it too. And real quick, I'll just briefly touch on there's a thing on Netflix called 13 Reasons Why. And, it's about a girl who kills herself and then releases cassette tapes telling why different people contributed to her suicide. And there's a lot of feelings about that show. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. But the biggest key for the show is if you happen to let your kids watch it, make sure you have a conversation with them afterward. Ask them, does any of this happen to you at school? Do these kind of things, find this stuff out. Because that's really where these kind of things are at their best. Whether you agree with what they show and do in the shows is one thing, but if you can get a conversation going, there's a lot of people that don't talk about this. Again, that's why I wanted to talk about suicide, in general. It's a show I've been wanting to do for a long time, but it's such a tough thing to approach because it's such a downer, but that's the exact reason why no one talks about it. It's such a downer. And it's one of the taboos that needs to go away. It's one that people need to embrace. They need to talk about it. If you have a friend that's got depression, you need to know if they've felt that way, or let them know that if they do feel that way, that you are a safe place. They can come to you and say, hey, I'm going through this, and that you'll be there for them, because you just never know. And, the other, I forgot real quick, sorry here. The other article that I wanted to bring up was one that I sent this to Henno. Actually I sent it to both of you. I don't know if you read it or not, Jen, but okay. Where it talks about the reason why a lot of people who are our age are taking this kind of death from Cornell hard, and then he goes in to really break it down into what I think is an incredible breakdown of it. And I was getting to this earlier when I said I was going to write a blog, and then I read this guy's, and I was like, he just nails it. That's exactly kind of what I was thinking. Which is that a lot of people dismissed the grunge movement as just, angsty teenagers or whatever. But really what that movement was about was depression and cynicism in the world. And if you look at people from that generation, there's a lot of it. And it's something that shouldn't be dismissed real quick. And, along with anxiety. And it has really become a problem. And, but this guy goes into this talk about this a little bit. And I think it was a beautifully written post about, because again, for those, if you don't know, a bunch of the lead singers of really big bands from that era are dead. Not all of them in total. I mean, but a lot of the biggest bands of that time, as far as the grunge Seattle kind of movement sound, are dead. There's only a couple that really, that aren't. And not all of them are suicide per se, but, like Scott Weiland wasn't suicide, but it was an overdose. So it is a suicide, and that's the thing is it's like, this is a cross section of that, but that whole movement, a lot of the people that people were heavily influenced by at that time all had these issues. It was such a reflection of, and it's the reason I was drawn to that music. I was having those issues. I am having those issues, it's so, and that's the thing is if that's a magnification of a lot of the people who listen to that kind of music, but it was so easily dismissed as, oh, you're one of those grunge kids. Or think about it oh, you're a goth kid. It's just brushed aside.
Yeah.
And there's a reason kids gravitate to that stuff a lot of times. And it isn't necessarily just because, oh, this has got cool guitar sounds. There's something about the sound of it, the feel, the music, the lyrics, whatever it is that's pulling you there. Cause there's all sorts of music. Why, when I was a depressed teenager, wasn't I listening to pop music? Because I didn't identify with that. I identified with grunge. So it's, And
that's a great opportunity for parents to have a great conversation with your kids. Don't ask them, dismiss the music they're listening to right off the bat. Ask them what draws them to it. Say, what do you like the lyrics, or is it the music, the sound that brings you in? Try to have those conversations with them. You're probably not going to get very far very quickly,
probably not.
But try to listen to see what they are, what they can connect with.
It's, that's such a great suggestion, because I think about when I was a kid and I would, play something from my parents, and like they had no interest in even understanding it.
Yeah.
And
most parents are that way. It's like, oh, it's just noise.
And if they bothered to understand it, they might have gotten to learn a little bit about what was going on in my head. That I would have never expressed anything, half the stuff that I was thinking.
Yeah.
Even the dark stuff, I would never have talked to them about it, but they could have gained some insight into what's going on if they paid attention to what I was listening to and why I was listening to it.
Yeah. My mom, I remember my mom asking me because, I was into like, metal and stuff too, and hard rock kind of stuff, and she's like, why are you always listening to that? It's depressing. And, it's funny, like you said, I wasn't full on honest about it, because if I was, I would have been like, because this is what, this is what I identify with.
How I feel.
Yeah. And, that's the thing. I emotionally wasn't mature enough or ready enough, it could have been either or both of those things, to have a discussion about that. And she would have had that discussion with me. My dad would have had that discussion with me, but I didn't bring it to them either. And, and they didn't, there, I seemed fine, so there was no reason for them to really investigate further because I put the mask on. And, I didn't tell anybody, nobody knew that, where I've been as far as, like I said, I mean, there was a night I was sitting in a bathtub and I had a razor blade sitting there and I just kept looking at it and everything in my head was saying, do it. And, and I'm sitting there, just no, cause if I do, then, essentially guilt saved my life, the idea of what it would do to my parents was too much for me to overcome to do it. And I'm very glad of that because, that's not what I want to do, but that's where I was at the time, and when I finally told my mom that I was at that point, I mean, I don't know that there could be a bigger kick in the gut to her because she felt like a failure and she wasn't at all, but it's one of those things that it's because nobody talks about this stuff. And that's why we have to talk about this stuff, whether it's just talking about whatever a mental illness is. And right now I'm on mentalhealth.gov and I just down the side of this, whether it's anxiety disorders, behavioral disorders, eating disorders, which is one we haven't really talked about, but that's definitely something to talk about because that is a mental illness as well. Mental health and substance abuse, mood disorders, obsessive compulsive, personality disorders, psychotic, suicidal behavior, trauma disorders, any of that. And then well beyond that, there's way more than that too. But no matter what it is, there needs to be conversations because it's all not talked about enough. And, again, that's why we wanted to do this because, we want to put this out there to talk about. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to go into this a little bit here, unless you've got something else you wanted to bring up first. Okay. Again, I'm on mentalhealth.gov. I'll have the link for this in the show notes. And they point out that, and they've got a list of warning signs here, which I'm going to go through in a minute. But there's a little blurb at the top that I wanted to read, which is suicide causes immeasurable pain, suffering, and loss to individuals, families, and communities nationwide. On average, 112 Americans die by suicide each day. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds, and more than 9.4 million adults in the U.S. had serious thoughts of suicide within the past 12 months. But suicide is preventable, so it's important to know what to do. For more information, go to sprc.org, and again, that link will be in the show notes. And I just wanted to kind of point out those metrics a little bit, because, again, a lot of people don't understand how much and how many people are affected by these things, we all know somebody who's on, like Jen said, a behavioral or a mood, altering type drug, like an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety kind of situation or whatever. But I don't think a lot of us understand, and not every person with depression is super suicidal. Not every person with different, it does affect us all differently, but the ones that are, those numbers, even though they don't seem massive, 112 people a day is still way too many people feeling hopeless or whatever to the point that they're killing themselves. That's just 9.4 million adults thinking that. That's the adults part. That's without teenagers in there. That's way too many people. It's just those numbers need to come down. There's enough stuff that'll kill us through our life anyway. We don't need help.
Right.
So, the warning signs of suicide, and again, I'm reading right off their website. It says, if someone is showing one or more of the following behaviors, he or she may be thinking about suicide. Don't ignore these warnings. Get help immediately. The first one is talking about wanting to die or kill oneself. The next one is looking for a way to kill oneself. Talking about feeling hopeless or having no reason to live. Talking about feeling trapped or in unbearable pain. Talking about being a burden to others. Increasing the use of alcohol or drugs. Acting anxious or agitated, behaving recklessly. Sleeping too little or too much. Withdrawing or feeling isolated. Showing rage or talking about seeking revenge. Displaying extreme mood swings. There's other things too that I've heard over the years, like if you know somebody and they're giving away a bunch of their stuff, or they're uncharacteristically, making amends. And I don't mean that in a 12-step way, but just out of the blue, this person's doing something like your relationship is okay, but then all of a sudden they're apologizing for something 10 years ago, or, just a really out of the blue kind of behavior. Those kind of things. Like I'm very much the type that the people that are around me enough, I really pay attention to their behaviors. And when they act outside of said behaviors, I usually am like, is everything okay? Because we're all creatures of habit. We rarely break behavior, So when somebody does that, it's a little bit of a flag. I do it with the people I talk to online too. Like if they're a certain way and then all of a sudden they're not, and I'll just send them, hey, are you okay? Is everything fine or whatever, because there's a reason that they're changing their behavior, and a lot of times it's, I just got tired of blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, fine. No big deal. Just making sure you're okay, so, don't discount that kind of stuff too. The giving away stuff, one, is because they're going to be killing themselves. So they're just giving their stuff away beforehand. So if somebody, unless they're doing it just because, they're literally just cleaning their house out is one thing, but, that's still an outside of normal behavior, And
it's also good to pay attention to the patterns, like you were saying. It's a big thing is the consistency in the patterns on stuff, on people. And when they start acting way outside their norm, like if they have been talking about, feeling down, not sleeping well, and all of this stuff, but then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they're in a really great mood. Everything's going great. They have, they're giving stuff away. All of that stuff is signs of someone planning. Yeah. Now, doesn't mean that they are.
Yeah.
It's just signs that they could be. And those are, always remember, you may not be the person that can help them, but maybe you can help them get help.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes we're just not the right voice, or we're not the right person that can get through. So maybe it's the way you can help them is, say they're really close with somebody else that you're close with. Get that third person involved and just say, you know what? They won't hear it from me. Maybe they'll hear it from you. Enlist others' help, even if it is invasive and can burn some bridges, because you may be stepping out, and this is some serious, sensitive stuff.
Yeah.
You may be stepping on some toes, and you may get yourself into a little bit of trouble by saying something out of line. But if it helps to save someone's life, weigh those balances. And if you have concerns, make sure you talk it over with some close loved ones first before, trying to help. Because some people don't want help.
Right.
So it gets tricky and sticky, and it's very difficult.
Right. And if you happen to be a person who's, as we say at the end of every episode, it's, if you feel yourself feeling that way, that you're wanting to, you're feeling the pull of wanting to kill yourself, or you're starting to go down, you're seeing these patterns in yourself, whichever, make sure, even if you don't want to go into the hospital or something like that, at least take a first step, like calling the suicide prevention hotline number. You don't have to be like at the doorstep of it to call them. The people there can still maybe help you and talk with you, and it's someone who doesn't know you, so you don't have to worry about judgment or any of that kind of stuff, which I understand and know is a huge thing, and why a lot of people don't want to tell someone else, because they don't want to hear your life could be worse, or, they don't want to hear those kind of judgment type things. And you won't get that from these kind of hotlines. So definitely utilize those if you need to, even if it's just you're running through kind of a spiral and you're feeling that way, even though you don't think you're going to do something. Sometimes it's just better to talk it out with somebody than to, just deal with it on your own. Because again, keep in mind, isolation is the ultimate enemy of you if you want to fight a mental illness. You know, it's the ultimate accessory to, you know, mental illness, because then it can get a better hold on you, you know, because, you know, nobody loves you and all that kind of stuff. So, and again, if a friend calls you and you happen to be with somebody and they're feeling suicidal or whatever, do not leave them alone if you can help it. Try to stay with them. If they go into a bathroom, make them leave a door open, you know, that kind of stuff. Whatever you have to do to make sure that they can't harm themselves until help arrives, or you can get them to where, you know, they can get some help, or they get through kind of those feelings or whatever. Also, so.
And you are not responsible for somebody else's actions.
Yeah.
So when things go down, whichever way they end up going down in life, because we all have been in situations where we've tried to prevent something, or we've tried our best to do what we felt was right. And whether it turned out right or wrong or whatever, as long as you're coming from a place of good, honest help, recognize your role, and understand that you cannot control someone else's actions. Yeah. That is their decision to make, whatever it may be, whether it's seek help, not seek help. You can only reach a hand out. You cannot make them grab it.
Yeah.
And you can't make them get help.
Right. It's the old saying of, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Mm-hmm. It's his exact situation. You know, you can help them. You can hand them all the resources. You can do all the stuff, but they've got to want to do it. And, you know, and again,
they've got to do the work.
For anybody feeling that way, there's tons and tons of people out there who don't want you to die, who want to help you. Again, they dedicate their life to it, whether it's professionally or volunteering. There's people who've gone through it that volunteer to help others so they don't go through it, you know, or that they make it through, you know, those crisis type situations. So, you know, we can't stress enough, you know, that if you feel this way, get help. If you really want, you know, and even if you don't directly or don't think you know somebody who this is an issue for, learn the signs anyway, because you never know when you might be a parent. You never know when you're going to be a friend to somebody who, again, you know, I mentioned earlier, a life event, you know, somebody could lose their job or lose their spouse or whatever, or you know, and you, by recognizing these things, might realize, hey, this person's going down this rabbit hole and maybe I can help them, you know. So it's just good knowledge to have, you know, no matter what. And again, we all have phones on us. So, you know, if you don't know who to call or this or that, you know, again, 911, you can always call or take someone to a hospital. But, you know, all you have to do is just type in, you know, suicide prevention hotline or something like that. And there'll probably be a few numbers that'll come up, or there's a texting one that we, you know, and again, we have various links and stuff over at our Facebook page, you know, that can really help. So, you know, go join us over there and, you know.
If you ever get stuck, folks, you know, we're here to help too. Mm-hmm. So we're pretty much, between the three of us, one of us is usually online at any given point of the day or night because of our schedules.
Yep.
But
yeah, that's true.
You can, you know, we're on Twitter. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook.
Yeah.
Shoot us a message if you have a question or you have a scenario that you want our 2 cents in.
Yeah.
Like Brian always mentions, we're not doctors. We're not professionals in any way. We're just
all I can tell you is
average people.
Yep.
We can only speak from our experiences, but we're open to throw our 2 cents in. So if you want our advice and you want to talk to us, or if you have a story or something that you would like to share, let us know, and maybe we can even have you on, so you can join in the conversation live with us here, and so we can, you know, hear another perspective. We love to hear from you, and we'd love to be of service.
Yeah,
as Hannah likes to say, let's be of service to each other.
Yeah, because most importantly, in all that stuff, you know, we're willing to listen, and
absolutely.
And like I've said before, I've had a few people reach out to me. Just people I had no idea who they are on Twitter and just ask some questions because they've seen some of the posts that I'll make or something. And that's, that's great. I'm glad people are reaching out to others. That's, now I'm not saying that it's, great they're reaching out to me, just that anybody will reach out to anyone. That's awesome, because it is a hard first step, and a couple of them have been for someone else. How can I help this person, or how did, your situation, and it's like, this is great. That's why, the whole month I've been sharing stuff over on my Facebook about, like, since Chris Cornell died, I was sharing various articles about suicide and what to look for and different stuff. And, I had a couple people send me messages and, are you feeling okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm doing this to get conversations going. I want people to talk about this and read about this, because a lot of us will never understand it. A lot of people will never be in a place, which is great. I wish no one was in the place that they felt like they wanted to kill themselves,
Right.
But understanding these things makes it a lot easier. Not to deal with after it happens, because that's always going to be hard, but it'll at least help, like I said, maybe we can recognize it in someone else and maybe save a life somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Frankie is very, he can tell when my voice changes and I start getting kind of serious and stuff. He likes to get involved. And he's like, what's going on? She's getting that serious voice. What do I need to hear?
He's part of your support system,
He is. He's a very strong part of my support system. My animals are a very big part of my support system.
Which we talked about on a previous episode, actually. So
we have. So,
and that's something else. One last thing is, two last things here. One is, if you're new to the show, we've talked about so many topics on this podcast, as this is our 105th episode. So that is just over 2 years of various topics we've talked about. And there's a lot of overlap. But I always title the show essentially what we talked about. So, take a run through there. There's some really good tips. There's some stuff, again, even if you're not a person who's suffering, but somebody or whatever, it may help you understand, the situation a little bit better, or a better way to maybe approach them about helping them. Because, like, the one woman mentions the bipolar author, she talks about how she teaches people about their bipolar and how to deal with it. And she goes, I also teach the people around me how to help me. And I was like, that's such an important point, because it really is what we're doing in so many ways is, you have to teach the people around you how to help you, because a lot of times they don't know how to help you, but they want to,
Something else before we start wrapping up, I wanted to mention another really big sign, like me personally, when I'm starting to go down a rabbit hole, one of the first things that starts to, like, people can pick up right away, I stop wearing makeup.
Yeah.
And it's like, all of a sudden my hair is done as it usually is.
That's a great point, actually, that's usually a side effect of depression, is that you start caring less and less about your appearance. So that is a really good point.
So that's one of the first signs. Like, my husband will see that, he'll see that I'm not wearing as much makeup. I'm not doing my hair as big or as elaborate as I usually do it. My clothes may not be as ironed as they usually are. So little things like that that's kind of my first little signals that something's not going right with me, that I need to kind of spend a little bit more time and attention on my mental health.
Sure.
So that's something else for you to look for, folks. That's a pretty easy way to kind of pick up when someone's not doing as well as maybe they could be.
Right. Be really sensitive about that, though. Don't just...
Oh, yes.
And
a lot of this stuff, folks, is very
Don't be like,
sensitive.
so what's going on with all this?
Because maybe someone just didn't, they stayed up too late watching Netflix one night.
Right.
So you never know.
Yeah. Or just didn't have time to put a face on, or whatever it is,
Yes. Be very cautious.
Yeah. Just be careful of that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we good for today?
I think so. There's so much more we could talk about on this topic. But
Yes,
again, like a
there
lot
is.
of the stuff with these shows, I love that in hopes we get conversations going with people, whether they talk to us or not, but hopefully they'll talk or they'll investigate further. You know, that's all I hope from this, is that we can help people a little bit here. And, you know, that's, like I said, it's the biggest thing is if someone starts talking to you about feeling suicidal, don't shut it down. Don't, I don't, you know, they're Debbie Downering. Like, listen to them, especially, I mean, really, a lot of times the people who are going to do this stuff end up being quiet about it. Like, they don't really talk about it. So, you know, so that's why, again, knowing the signs and stuff are very important, because sometimes you have to kind of draw it out of somebody else. But, you know, just in general, let's just hope that these numbers get better as time goes on.
I hope so. Robin Williams said something that now I can't find it. I was hoping I could find his exact words real quick. But, well, one of the things that he said, which isn't the one I was looking for, but was, I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people that make you feel all alone. You know, and that's one thing that kind of stood out for me. But the one I'm looking for, there's a quote from Robin Williams where he talks about the reason that he makes people laugh is because he knows how it makes, you know, basically his side of things is he's so sad that he doesn't want anyone else to ever feel as bad as he feels.
Right.
So that's why he goes out of his way to make people happy.
Right. I do the same thing. Like, when I realize, like, people are having a bad day and stuff, I go out of my way to try to make them laugh for the same reason. Because I've said before on here that I would gladly, you know, accept other people's sadness and hurt, it just so they wouldn't have to. Because I hate seeing people that I care about, you know, going through stuff like that, you know. Whether it's mental health or just in general, you know, I hate to see people hurting, you know, and not that I'm alone. I know a lot of people are that way. It's just, you know.
Yeah, I found it. I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anyone else to feel that way. Yep. And that's always been a big one for me, is when I found that quote that's always stuck with me, because how often that we know how dark and how sad and how empty things can get sometimes. Thankfully, we don't know the epitome of it. We don't know the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But we've all had these dark feelings and stuff. And
yeah,
that's what makes it so we can empathize with people.
Yeah, and that's why we end up doing the podcast.
And that's why we're here, folks. You know, that's what brings us to it.
I just thought of one last thing I want to say here, even though I know I've said this is the last thing like 4 times. Was when Henno was talking about Chris Cornell, and he said, you know, when somebody like that dies, that you kind of don't know how to feel or what to do with that, you know, and that it's a choice at that point. I thought that was a great point, because if you're a creative person, it's a great time to be creative. I've seen so many people who've done drawings of Cornell, covers of his music, all this stuff since then for that exact reason, because they're essentially, you know, paying tribute to a guy that was a huge influence on them. But you can also, if you're not a creative type, you can use it in different ways, which is to, you know, like if you don't suffer from mental illness, or even if you do, live it up, live life as much as you can, because for some people, even though it seems like they've got a great life, maybe upstairs they really don't. And, you know, do that. Or, you know, like us talking about things on the show, it's like talk to people around you, see if you can help their lives. Volunteer for mental health stuff, do walks, if you can donate, you know, to NAMI or something like that. You know, there's all these kind of things you can do that aren't, creative, but you can still be inspired by the person to, hey, I want to do this kind of in their name. Like you would for like, you go to some funerals and they're like, in lieu of flowers, donate to this instead, Mm-hmm. So there's all those kind of things you can do as well. If you feel like you want to do something, like you want to participate in honoring the person or just like how can I take this and apply it to my life? Mm-hmm. Those are great ways. And, because like when he made that comment about how he always thought that he could only make music when he was depressed, that's such a sad statement, but it is so highly regarded in the art community. I'm assuming music too, but I know in the art community that it's like, I've talked with people and they're like, oh, you're going through this depression. I bet you're just pumping out art. And it's like, no, I'm not. And they're like, why? Because in a lot of people's heads, it's, art is pain, kind of a situation. And, it doesn't have to be. I had an article a long time ago. I actually wanted to do an episode of the show about that a little bit, about that old trope about how you have to be in pain to be creative when no, you don't. Why can't, you don't have to write love songs when you're, after a breakup. You can write, there's all these other love songs when people are happy. So,
exactly.
It's a great,
wake me up before you go.
Yeah, it's a great lesson to learn from like Cornell's point there is that once he realized he could be happy and write music, he started writing other music, and, it's also a good reason why a lot of your bands don't sound the same as when they first started, because their lives have drastically been altered by money and fame. There's no more struggles to play shows for 10 people.
It's gonna change. Every human being, we go through changes and emotional cycles, and we have our ups and we have our downs. And it makes sense that our creative outlets are going to reflect those changes.
Yeah.
It's nature. It's how it works.
And they should, cause the tortured artist thing, again, I'll try to find that article so we can do a show on it. Cause I think it'd be a great show to do. But,
sure.
I'm very much believing the way that, like, reading that when Cornell said that, and I was, I've kind of been in that thought process anyway, that it's like, yeah, that tortured artist thing needs to go. Because I think it kind of sets a bad baseline for a lot of artists. Mm-hmm. Almost that you can't experience good things because if you do, you won't be the same artist. It's like, well, no, you wouldn't be because you're happy or life's good. So you can create from that instead, But anyway, again, we'll get into that in another episode.
Pharrell Williams did really, really, really well with Happy. Just saying.
Right? A lot of comedians do. They're, it's the old clown thing, laughing on the outside, crying on the inside. It's, so anyway, that's it. I got nothing else there.
All right. Well, with that, folks, we'll wrap it up. If you want to continue the conversation, you can reach me at you can reach me at Jen's Crazy Life on Twitter, and that's Jen with a G. You can also reach me on Facebook. My name it's Genevieve McDaniel Jopek. It's a long name, folks. So feel free to go ahead and look us up by our Facebook page, or I'm also on Brian's page, and I'm also hooked up with Heno. So any of them, look for Genevieve, a long name that starts with a G, and you'll figure it out. Yeah. You want to reach the show, you can reach the show on our website at the Crazy Life Podcast at Weebly.com. You can also reach us at, that didn't sound right,
the Crazy Life Podcast.weebly.com.
.weebly.com.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our email address is the Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com. Much better there.
Yep.
All right. And Heno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno, and find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter. Throw to you, Brian.
You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. Come check us out on Facebook, like Jen said, at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. Or if you're just on Facebook, just search Crazy Life Podcast. I don't remember if you have to search it all together or not, but anyway, you can find it. We're on Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. I totally skipped my links. So you can find me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast, Salty Language, can be found at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work. But we do talk about different stuff. Like, last week's episode, I believe we talked about Chris Cornell and suicide a little bit. And it's been weird the last few weeks, or months, whatever. There's been a little more of that kind of conversation creeping in over there. Not suicide, but I mean,
all serious and adult-like over there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. And then right back to the juvenile behavior. If you want to, if you'd like to help the show out a little bit, please, if you're on iTunes, leave us a review, rate us, make sure you're subscribed, if you're not already. And then if you use other podcast apps, if they have a like or a share button, please use those. Or if you're on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, share our posts so that we can, maybe grow our listening base a little bit. And again, share with somebody who may benefit from this, somebody or somebody who's with somebody who's dealing with stuff, to where maybe we can help them a little bit too. I felt like I was forgetting something on the list here, but I don't think so. You can, no, I'm going to say it one more time that we're not doctors, therapists, or trained professionals, just three people sharing our experiences and opinions and things we've found that hopefully will help. If you need help, please seek out a professional. Talk to your doctor, talk to a psychiatrist or, therapist or whatever it is that you have in your support system, or talk to a friend even, just talk to them and, try to get help however you can. But please don't self-diagnose, and please don't, well, wow, I just totally lost my train of thought. The show should not be a substitute for therapy, or any sort of medical treatment, for entertainment purposes only. And then, of course, I always remind you, as we have through this whole episode, if you're feeling that you may harm yourself or others, please seek out help. Whether that one, seek out a friend, call 911, the suicide prevention hotline number. There's a whole list of things on our Facebook group page that can help you out. Check out NAMI.org. They've got different things. But please reach out to somebody, because again, there's a ton of people out there that don't want you to die. They want to help you. And honestly, when you have depression or various mental health situations like that, you heavily undervalue how much people care about you. And a lot of the people around you really care more than you realize and are willing to help. But sometimes you just got to reach out a little bit to them. And again, I know that's a hard first step to take. I've been there. But please do it, and please don't harm yourself. And yeah. Did I forget anything? I feel like, reach out to somebody. The most important part, and maybe the biggest, moral from the whole episode. Learn the signs of this stuff. Like, if a friend of yours has bipolar, look up bipolar a little bit. Talk to them about it, so you can understand it. If they have depression or alcoholism or whatever it is that they have, try to learn more and reach out to them and talk to them about it, so you can learn how you can be of service to them. And just reach out to somebody. It doesn't even have to be someone with mental illness. Just reach out to someone you haven't talked to in a long time. Tell them you appreciate them. Tell them you love them. Whatever it is. Just put some positive energy out there for somebody, because you never know how much they may need it. So.
Absolutely. We're all about the positivity here, folks. Mm-hmm. So with that, let's see. Wiggle your toes. Keep breathing. And because Brian says I put too much pressure on you guys to have a great week, I'll say have a great moment.